Hi
Do we
everyone.
need to do the introductions or shall we go straight in?
We could do the intro.
Let's go straight in.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah,
so straight in as well. We know who you
We
are.
know each other so well.
Okay, so I'm recording the session. So for the purpose of the audience who are unable to join us today, today's session is the Overcoming Challenges with Laura Everest and myself. So my name is Zen Khan. I am the managing partner and CEO of Zen Professional Development and Education First Recruitment. We are a training institute, internationally accredited and based in Dubai. Over to you, Laura.
Hello, I'm Laura Everest. I'm the director and founder of Laura Everest Consulting Services. I help people discover where they have the greatest potential for success, where to invest their time, and how to leverage their talents to grab the opportunities they need and they're looking for.
Wonderful, thank you. So today joining us, we've got Mandy and we've got Gizlan as well. Ladies, would you like to introduce yourself? Mandy, if you can go first, and then Gizlan, please.
Sure. Hi, I'm Mandy and I'm one half of Pixel Roses. It's photography and makeup business. And we specialize in corporate branding shoots and Zoom backgrounds as well. So thank you.
Over to you, Gizlan.
Thank you. So I'm Gizlan and I'm the owner of Table and Beyond. And at Table and Beyond, we help clients, which are hospitality customers, through their selection and procurement of tabletop, room items, what we call the operating equipment. Nice to be here with you, ladies.
Thank you. Okay, so today's outcomes are we're going to discuss how to overcome challenges. We're going to help you focus on your strengths and discuss how mindset can help you to overcome challenges. Please do tag us on social media with the hashtag Working Women Push Boundaries. Just some housekeeping rules over here. Please just keep everything confidential that is discussed. However, we will be sharing this information on our social media platforms. So the webinar, the live recording will also be posted on the live webinar as well.
Just one thing to say, sorry guys, is anyone else experience a flickering screen or is it just me?
Okay, let me stop share and then I will reshare it.
It's your eyes, Laura.
I wish it was. Is yours, is it coming out? Is it coming out clear for you ladies?
Yes.
Well, if it is, because I know what I'm talking about. So if it doesn't flicker for you, then I'm quite fine to go through with it. I don't know why, because I've never had that before.
Okay, I'll just reshare the screen for you.
But if needs be, it's perfectly fine because I can do it anyway. Oh, that's okay. No, it's still, mine's still blinking all over, but it's fine. I can do it. Okay, so really, let's get started. What I wanted to share really is that, you know, this last year we've recognized how much this pandemic has really disrupted us, and it's kind of brought out huge challenges in so many different ways. And obviously, you know, we've got to, you know, some people I've noticed the key things is fear of what they're going through, where they're going and how they can overcome that. Loads and loads of people losing confidence in their thoughts and abilities of what they wanted to do. Obviously, people are quite concerned about another key thing in overcoming challenges, or challenges people face, is other people's opinions. And I've noticed that a lot of the people that I've been working with, clients, are coming to me and worrying about what people think of them and what their contribution is, and, you know, and doubting themselves. Obviously, we've seen a lot of setbacks, and because of this, a lot of the challenges have been around motivation and about how to focus, and just really a loss of control in areas where they've always felt perhaps confident. So these are some of the key things. Another one is relationships and managing conflicting situations. So these are some sort of key areas that you or may or may not feel that you can tie into, but they are quite you know, quite key with a lot of people. So really, this is just about recognizing that we're always going to be challenged, but how we go about getting over that is totally our own choice. We do not need to be defeated, even if we sometimes feel like it. So next slide, please, then. So today I have got 5 steps in overcoming challenges, just things to think about quickly. So step 1, next slide, is begin with the end in mind. Some of you may be familiar with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is actually his second habit, habit 2. And it's really about what outcome do you really want to see for yourself? What if you imagined you had no obstacles, how would you visualize what you want? And it's then being able to sort of think, okay, what's my conscious effort now in identifying who I am, what I want, why it matters, and what really, when am I looking for this? I mean, we don't need to be looking at a 5-year goal, for example. We can break it down into smaller little areas. But what am I wanting to achieve in these little bits? For every section, maybe, before the end of this year, where would I like to be? What do I want to see for myself? And then break it into little chunks. And then you can start empowering yourself and perhaps circumstances to perhaps make some changes little bit at a time, small steps. So begin with the end in mind. What are you looking for? If you had no obstacles, how would you see it? And then just start thinking in the shorter term, how can I make some of those things happen? Okay. But we've got to have a goal and a vision, because if we start, this is a bit like we were saying earlier, I think probably sadly, guys, before the recording, is this whole thing of spreading ourselves thin and trying to be a bit of everything. So this is really about being quite focused of what we want to do and what our point is. So next slide. Obviously, one back. So obviously the key thing is to know where we're strong. I mean, obviously, the way you're going to know this best is to do the Gallup Strengths Assessment, because it tells you absolutely, but you can start recognizing where your natural toolkit is, okay? What you are best at doing. For example, there are some strengths that make you more resilient and productive than others. So for example, if you had the strength of, say, a ranger is really great at organizing things. If you have the strength of strategic, it means you're really good at sifting through loads of information and finding the clearest path to move forwards. So what are the key things that you think you can tap into about yourself? If yours is positivity, how can you use that right now to move you forwards? So it's about knowing where you're strong, okay? Because that's your best resource moving forwards. It's also recognizing that whether you're somebody who gets stuff done, if you're somebody that's good at influencing other people, if your style is very much about relationship building, how can you leverage that right now? What are your key opportunities to do these things? Recognize also your natural communication style with people. Right now, we're talking about the fact that people don't necessarily feel very connected. And even though we've got really good at saying, oh, everyone, let's get onto Zoom and have, our, coffee chats or, getting together with people, we've kind of got into that. And a lot of organizations and people with teams are saying we must have that formal educational or communication thing. But we're also loads and loads of people are feeling that when they want to have an informal chat with somebody and just say, you know what, can I bounce something off you? I need a few ideas. That we've kind of got out of the habit because we're not in a scenario to do that anymore. We're not in an office with lots of people. And so a lot of people are feeling a little isolated. So to think, what's your style? Are you somebody who if people want to say, can I use you as a sounding board for a bit? Are you somebody who openly enables people to see that they're welcome to that, for example? Are you somebody who doesn't share some of those things? So just think, what's your style? How might others see you? You know, and how can you perhaps help bring a more empathetic way forwards with the people you're working with? We all, you know, you may have your own teams, or you've got a partner with loads of other people. How are we using that when we're not seeing people every single day? So think about strengths, not just to do your direct work, but things to boost your own personal well-being, which is really, really important moving forwards. Okay, think about what's your style. Next one. Okay, so glare factors. All right, this is about recognizing what gets in the way of our success. Okay, so weaknesses are not the opposite of a strength. A weakness is something that stops you doing your thing well. And it's normally, if you're not able to do the things you're really, really good at, it's being suppressed in some way, or if you feel that your values are being crossed. It also is about recognizing too that some strengths naturally put you into a position of feeling less resilient than others. For example, if you're somebody that's very high in empathy, and people with empathy are very quick to absorb other people's feelings and absorb kind of the sort of atmosphere around you. And when you do that, it puts you in a much more stressful situation to manage yourself and manage your own well-being. If you naturally have self-assurance as a strength, you're going to find it much easier to stay in control of where you are and to cope with difficult situations. So again, look at where your strengths pull you forwards, but look at where they hold you back. What are the situations you find yourself in? What are the trigger points for that? So who are the people, or what are the situations that make you feel that you're losing control or you're not in a space to manage? What happens when you feel stuck? What behaviors do you resort to? How does it come out for you? So think about what you can do. It's really important that you identify where you get held back. And actually, what you might want to do is, because sometimes glare factors are because we can have things that catch us out that we don't know about ourselves. They're in our blind spot. So what could be useful is when you feel that perhaps, you know, you're feeling days where you feel really like you're reacting to stuff you'd rather not react to in a certain way, and you don't know why you feel grumpy, or you just, you know, there's certain things that haven't worked for you. If you've got people, for example, that you really trust, it could be colleagues, it could be your other half, it could be, you know, your best buddy, your parents, you know, ask them, you know, where do you see me coming unstuck? And, you know, what do you see? Can you recognize anything that might help me? And just some of the things that might be in our blind spot, we might be able to look at those and figure, how do we manage those a little bit better, so that when we're dealing with a challenge, we can cope with it in a better way. Next slide, please. The other thing we all talk about is mindset. You know, and we all talk about having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and it goes on and on and on. But really, it's your mindset is recognizing that we can so easily get caught in our inner dialogue. Our thoughts, patterns, negative thinking, we need to start recognizing where yours are. What are the things that hold you back? Think about, when we think about some of the thinking traps we can get caught in, are we people who perhaps see very black and white? Are we people who ruminate? We allow things to go round our heads while we try and think of another way of how we could have seen it and what we could have done. Could we catastrophize, where perhaps we see one thing and it's all wrong, and then suddenly it's going to take over and my whole life is going wrong with it? So what are the things that we tend to do? Do we tend to blame ourselves when things go wrong? and think, oh my God, what should I have done better? So think about your thinking patterns. What do they tell you? Our self-talk is very, very important. How do you control your inner dialogue? The things we say to ourselves, honestly, are more spiteful than anything anyone else can say to us. So when we're in a negative space, our self-talk can be vicious. So how do you manage that best? What are the things that you can do to turn that around? How do you question your perspective? Can you find another way of looking at things? There's a thing called the drama triangle. And I don't know if any of you have heard of it. And it's an amazing thing that when we're kind of out of our comfort zone and things don't go right for us, we jump into what they call the drama triangle. And we're likely to, there's 3 parts that we could play. We could either play the victim, where I'm completely stuck and I can't do anything about it. Or we play the persecutor, where we blame everyone else for what the problem is. Or we become the rescuer, where we're desperate to go in and fix it. You know, bleed for me and I'll fix you. So we can play one of those parts. We can play all of them. And they're not healthy. So we need to think that when we're out of our comfort zone and we feel challenged and we jump into this perhaps triangle of the way in which we might manage our self-talk or the way in which we communicate with others and see things, what part do you think you're most likely to play in the drama triangle? Are you a victim? Are you a persecutor? Are you a rescuer? We all kind of play all 3 at some point, but we have a tendency, depending on our natural talents, to zone in on one or t'other. So think about what that is for you. How does that show up for you? And we need to talk about how you find ways to get out of those situations, because none of them are healthy. So how are you managing your mindset? You need to think about your circle of influence. I'm always talking about circle of influence. When you think of all the things that concern us in our lives, that worry us, literally take each one of those and look and say, what of this is in my ability to control? To what degree can I manage it or have an actionable plan to do something so that I retain that control seat rather than allowing the circumstance to take over for me? So what do you do? How do you manage your negative thinking? And the next slide, number 5, is that none of us, when we've overcome a challenge sometimes, we've all had situations where we've struggled and we think, I can't do it, I don't know how to do it. But we've also can do things that we've done really, really well. What tends to happen is we instinctively are pre-wired to look at things that are threatening to us. So we tend to zone in on what went wrong for us, things that aren't working for us, mindsets that are negative for us. But we have an elephant's memory for all of those things. And yet, if I ask people generally to connect and tell me about some of the successes they have to think a lot harder about those than all the things they think have gone wrong. So when you think about replicating success, the most important thing you need to consider is thinking about how you've connected to past successes. What did you do? How did you manage them? How can you make more of those things happen? Connect to good days and choose your mindset. We can set our intentions for the day. We can decide, you know what, I want to have a good day today. And when things go wrong, keep that mindset next to you. I've had to do that. I've had a terrible day today, actually. I had a terrible morning, but I had to keep putting down next to me what I wanted to achieve today and how I wanted to feel today. And every time I feel I'm moving away from that, I go back and remind myself what it is I want. And I think, no, come on, let's think positive. What am I trying to achieve? And it honestly helps put you in a more confident situation and a mindfulness about where you want to go. Remember that nothing, as we said earlier, nothing is a sprint. Everything is small steps. You don't need to take a big jump to try and make a change. Just little tweaks every day. What can you do differently every day to link you back to where you were successful and how you can have more of those scenarios. So I've literally shared with you 5 quick steps. What I'd love to do is to turn this off and to say, what did you most connect to here? Where have you seen your biggest challenges, and what things really work for you? And what of these things can help you, and which ones still hold you back? Can I turn this off and share? Ladies.
So for me, Laura,
Yeah.
Sorry.
replicating success is an interesting one, because our success pre-corona was very different to what it is, you know, what it will be post-corona. So this is one of the challenges, I think, that, and one of the things that really resonated with myself, and how I'm going to adapt to that and make those changes within my own mindset to think, okay, these successes will now work again going forward.
Can I ask you something on that? I'm going to ask you is for you to think, I mean, you don't have to define it now on the spot necessarily, but what's really important is to define what you see, or how you define success for yourself. Because often we put a huge amount of stress on the back of us as to what we think success should look like and what success is. So I think it's about redefining success and maybe recognizing that there's success comes in different packages, for different things. And to define your boundaries around what success is for you. And, you know, because it doesn't necessarily mean success. I had success before Corona with this. It may be, what is Zen brilliant at? That when she does this, she's successful in achieving X, Y, and Z. Because you need to link it back probably to the things that successes that are in your control to replicate.
Yeah,
does that help a bit? I'd ask you just in your own time to think about defining how you would define success for you.
Yes.
And where you get caught out with it.
Yeah, I think I will have a look at that. Gislan, over to you.
Well, for me, really, it's the first point, the beginning with the end in mind, which is a very important point, because sometimes we start something and then we are eager, and then to continue that eagerness till the end, we kind of lose hope on the way. So yeah, so that is one of my main challenge, actually.
Yeah, the advantage, if you begin with the end in mind, when you know, this is something that I found, as you know, that I've so far had to overcome this accident, which is still a problem for me. And as I said, as you know, I've so far had 17 surgeries to kind of rebuild me and push me forwards. But for me, everything I've had to do is to decide what is the outcome I need to see. I know I'm never going to get completely over this. There's still a high percentage chance that I may have to have, you know, false legs at some point. I may have a time when I can't walk, but I was told I never would walk. So right now is a bonus. So, you know, rather than say my focus is, oh, I'm going to be perfect at the end and I'm going to run and do all the things I can't do. I know that's not possible. But I think, what is it I want to see? What are the measures I would like to see for myself, all going in the best way forwards? What could I realistically, hopefully achieve? And then work backwards as each little step is, that's where I'm going. That's my sight for everything I'm going to do. And then what do I need to do now? So when you fall off and you have days where you're thinking, oh, I'm deviating, I'm going here, I'm going there. Then the thing is, end in mind. What did you want to see? What do you want to do? Go back. And it's like a focus to be able to draw you back into where, to keep you on to a line, if you like, of the way in which you need to move forwards. So it's kind of like like a focus. So the best thing is, you know, obviously we can't ever say, well, my end will be wow. But you need to understand what your key purpose is, what it is you're really looking to achieve. You may have to go about it in different ways to get there. But when you know what you want and why it's important, then that's a kind of allows you to, or gives you that, as I said, that focal point when you feel you're sliding and you're kind of deviating, thinking what to do, go back, say, I want that, what little step can I take to keep me on that path?
Mandy, would you like to add anything?
I think it's also point number one, the same as Ghislaine. It was trying to see the end, to see where we will be in a year, 2 years time, you know, because we are still a very young company. How far will we be? And trying to get there means that I have to step backwards to see how I'm going to get there, the steps that I have to take to get there. Focusing on now, but having that in my mind the whole time. This is where I want us to be. I mean, I'm sure we all feel the same. I think we want us to be a successful small business, successful enough to be able to spread if we wish. You know, we can be successful and have people working for us, doing some jobs that we know we haven't got the time to do, that we have to focus on what we can do, and then the little jobs behind the scene that make the business what it is, get somebody else trained up to do that. It's just seeing that end and then bringing it forward to now is sometimes really difficult. It's hard. I know where I want us to be, but how the heck do I get there? And also, I just want to get there quick. I don't want it to be baby steps. I want to sprint.
I think you're quite right, Manny. That's the key thing, is that, you know, I think as young businesses, I mean, I'm also in the same stage. I have big plans, but the thing is it's reining them in a little bit to make sure. I mean, there's, you know, they say that, you know, we can be what we think about. I mean, within reason, right? I mean, I can't honestly be what I think about because it's physically everything, defy modern medicine. But the point is, there are some things we can do. What we need to do is say, where would we like to be? What would we see for ourselves? And realistically, we've got to be realistic as well. This is the circumstance we're in right now. What can we do in this present circumstance? It's about staying in what's influencing what's in our control. But the point is, if you don't have the vision of where you want to be, it's so easy to lose faith and to kind of, yeah, to lose track of what you're trying to achieve at all and get stuck in the here and now of what's not working. So the point is to have this end in mind, that so you know where you're heading, you know what you're trying to achieve. Even if you don't know right now how you're going to get there, it's about saying, that's where I'm going. What things in this current situation can I do to just move me closer to that each day or every time I'm doing it? And I think, you know, when you're facing disruption and so much uncertainty, we have to manage what's in our control. And not everything is. And you know what? To take a gigantic, you know, jump would be fantastic. But I think at this stage, we all know that with the climate as it is, we have to go those baby steps, little changes, and every day is something little, which will move us forwards.
I mean, I recently read an article that you know, emphasized on the fact that 5 years ago, you know, when people were asked, well, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? No one predicted this pandemic, so we can't now think, okay, in 5 years' time, you know, I will be here. Whereas before, these kind of plans were achievable. However, you still need a plan in place, even though it might be, you know, it might not happen. You might have to pivot, you might have to change. However, if the path is there and you know your vision, your route that you're going to take to get you to your business to where it needs to be, you know, stay on that path, stay focused on that path, and you will get there. There might be some changes. We know with the pandemic, we have had to you know, be more resilient. We've had to change our thought processes, our business models, and become, you know, and become change makers, because no one's faced anything like this before. So even with, you know, even with the challenges that you may face, you have to remain focused and just stay on that path, and you know where you want to be and what steps you need to take to get there. So I think that was a really, really good point, Mandy, actually.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said in the beginning as well, is that, you know, we've got all these goals in mind, but if we try and split ourselves into trying to do all of those goals all at once, we're just not going to succeed at any of them, or not going to get to the end goal. So we need to focus on the goal that we've got in mind now, and then get that to a successful place where we can know then, okay, we can concentrate more on this other goal now, you know, sort of work
it is really about determining what's your key priorities. You know, and as I said, I'm forever talking about, you know, being able to recognize. One of the books that I'm always quoting on is Gary Keller's The One Thing, because he does sort of be able to sort of narrow you down to concentrate on what's the one key thing that you can do to move yourself forward. Identify the key thing that matters more than anything else. And then don't let all the other distractions, you know, kind of take over. Find your key thing and line up your dominoes around that, and try not to allow other things to distract what matters most to you, where your key priority is. And I think, you know, it's very easy at times like this, when things keep changing, that we think, oh, we must move with the goalposts. But there are some little bits we can move, but our key priorities of who we are, our purpose, what we're trying to achieve, should remain this, you know, the same all the way through. It's just perhaps, as Zen said, little ways perhaps we have to readdress our strategy to kind of get us there.
And like we were saying earlier before the recording started on the webinar, where we, you know, we need to pivot our businesses, but not so much where, you know, we're too thinly spread and we're not able to come back to what our niche is, because every business has, you know, be even a restaurant has a signature dish. You know, we'll all have our niche area. We might provide other services, you know, that are part of the overall service. However, we will have one key area that is our focus, or our niche market that, you know, that we're working with. And let's not forget that, because often when we're doing other things, what happens is that niche, you know, kind of gets left behind, and we're so absorbed on this, you know, this new product and this new focus. I know with Corona, you know, everybody started making face masks. So there were tailors that were making face masks, and there were, you know, these distributors of warehouse products that were, you know, making, you know, face masks. And I met so many people. However, if you don't know about that industry and you've gone into it, be very, very careful if you've adapted, you know, only to suit the time and the needs of the market, because that might not be something that will grow with your business. And I know with Ghizlan, she adapted really, really well. She brought in new products, but they were linked to her overall service. How did you find that, Ghizlan? How did you find launching a new product mid-pandemic?
Yeah, well, it was really to answer the need of our clients, because the clients were already with us and they were asking us for those products. So it was like, you have to listen, basically. We have to listen to the needs, and it's just not to give away this client base to other people. And this is how, during the lockdown, I have worked out on a new product range, and we were able to get some, I mean, regular orders from clients who need this very regularly, you know. So I think the key point here is to really listen to our customer, because the one who already deal with us, like, they know us, they know what our capability, and then if we listen to what they need, then we have to somehow a little bit change to what is their requirement, because we cannot tell something that the market does not need, right? At the end, we're here to service. We are here to service clients, and we have to listen. So this was the main revelation again for me during this time of COVID, is to listen to people, understand what really we can add value to them, and find what they need, basically.
I think we did the same with our business as well, in terms of going online with our qualifications, and even doing the online invigilation of examinations, because traditionally exams were always done face to face. However, we were able to bring in a model where, you know, invigilation was even done online for the qualifications, but it suited the needs of the clients, because during the pandemic, everybody, you know, was unable to leave their houses, they were unable to sit in groups to do training, and this was the best option. So for things like first aid to be online and health and safety to be online, it was a totally different market for us. However, you know, we managed to overcome the challenges and pivot in that direction, but it was still linked to the original product that we will offer, which is training and development. So definitely,
I have to agree with that as well. It's kind of like what we did before the pandemic started and we all had to go through lockdown. We were aiming in one direction. Since the pandemic and doing online stuff, we've managed to tailor what we had to the needs of online business, you know, backgrounds and backdrops and things like that. We still have in mind, or our end goal is still working with clients one-to-one. But it helped us with this pandemic a little bit, because we were able to use what we know and to tailor it to each of our clients' online needs, really.
And it really helped as well. So I know Gizlan had some backdrops done from yourself.
Yeah.
They looked really good. So again, you know, meeting the needs of the clients and providing a service that was actually required at the time. You know, post-corona, you've now got the well, not post-corona yet, but I've seen the pictures that Alan's done. You know, for Phil with the different aspects of his life and the different things that he does, and these are really, really good. So going forward, a lot more people will want things like this, you know, to enhance their business.
I have to say, just following on with some of these things that you're saying, this is, yes, also about, you know, kind of moving, you know, opening, I guess, the goalposts a little bit without deviating. Is, you know, I found that I'm still having, thank goodness, loads and loads of people needing to understand where they offered their best contribution. So for me, I'm doing more coaching than I anticipated, but I see it as a need right now. But also I've recognized that, you know, because as I was saying to Zen earlier, because I'm very active with articles and tips and things on LinkedIn, I've had a huge response to the things I've been writing on the human touch in terms of building the right empathy and the right communication, and, you know, understanding that, you know, well-being, as we continue in this kind of scenario, people's well-being is still, you know, up for grabs. And so, you know, I've actually been writing to address that. And in fact, you know, I was just sharing with them that I'm going to be doing some very short online courses to help people help themselves a bit, because I'm seeing that that's where people, you know, are feeling that they need the most help to build their own personal confidence, really, and to feel more resilient. So it's how we, you know, extend it out and build where we are right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really looking forward to those, Laura. I think they'll be great for everybody. You know, to be able to complete them flexibly and access, you know, your expertise through an online course. That would be amazing. So I'm looking forward to working.
Let's hope so.
On another point, what I wanted to ask both Gizlan and Mandy as well, what are your thoughts going forward in terms of, you know, growth and the economy changing, and do you see a change in the market? Do you see things picking up?
To be honest, I mean, I'm dealing with hospitality, so hotels today, they are a little bit, there is a mixed situation where some hotels in the city are still closed. Only the hotels by the beach are open. But thankfully, we have projects. So the new upcoming are the ones that are still, you know, having the investment to carry on. But the ones that are open already, they are a little bit reticent to do anything because they are actually in crisis. So I don't know, to be honest. Honestly, I am a positive person, but now it's just reached the point that I realize that it's not gonna be back to normal this year, and this is definitely, we're gonna see again back traveling. I would say only next year, because people are not feeling comfortable still to travel, and there is quarantine all over. So I have to continue focusing on new projects, connecting with the upcoming hotels that are coming up. This is where I can add lots of value at this time. But to go to my clients today, the same one who used to buy before, they are in crisis. There's no point to. It's going to put me even more down. So, like Laura was saying at the beginning, you know, when you have empathy and you start absorbing this negativity. So when you start talking to people who are negative about their situation and this, then you start doubting yourself and doubting the future. So I better focus and only see the part where people are looking at the new openings, are excited about you know, coming up with new things, instead of talking to the people who are really struggling, because this is taking me down.
I like that, Gislan, the fact that you're focusing on people that are bringing in new business rather than
Exactly.
on people that have got business, but they are struggling to pick it up. And often we think when we're getting, bringing in new clients to the business, that we have to focus on those that, that we've already worked with, we've already got relationships. But that's a part, of the whole marketing process. We have existing relationships, we're working with these people, but if you're focusing on those that are bringing in business to the region, so things like, Expo 2021, that might be, a key area that people want to now start focusing on, because it will bring in new business to the area, it'll bring in
Of course.
fresh faces, fresh eyes into the region. So that will be great. And I think, so thank you for making that point. Mandy, what are your thoughts?
I think for us, we're still trying to obviously be very careful being a studio-based photography company, though we are doing locations now as well. In fact, we did a location shoot last week and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can understand that people are a little bit skeptical at the moment to actually come to the studio. But we're taking steps to make sure that we've got all the sanitizers and the mask, and we're taking all precautions, etc., etc. In fact, now what we've actually done is we did a lesson this morning on photography. So somebody was really keen to learn how to use his camera. And it took a bit of umming and ahhing and that, but eventually he decided, okay, he will come, got the sanitizers out and all the rest of that. And we kind of think that may be another niche or another avenue for us to take, is to show people how we produce the images that we produce. Not necessarily everything, all the creative stuff. There's a lot of work involved in that. But I think it's just, it's trying to get your name out there and getting people to realize that it doesn't always have to be unsafe. You can still do things around this pandemic and still be safe, still be with one another. The online stuff is still good, but social distancing and all the rest of that, it has been a real trying time for us, I have to say. And all that I can think of is that once this pandemic is over, that we can there's only one way for us, and that's upwards. Fingers crossed, hopefully.
Yeah,
but Mandy, by the way, if I can say, I mean, it's a great idea, the idea you have for the courses. Because I know so many people, they invest in buying a nice camera and then they don't know how to use it. And one of them is me.
Well, we can do that.
I bought a camera before my son was born, and he's already 6.5. And I have the book of the Canon, and I never went for any class. And, so I could definitely sign up for that.
For sure.
With the sheet over it, and she'll be like
no, but really think about it, because people, I mean, okay, the time when they were traveling and all, but there are people who really want to have nice photos, and it's not always nice to have to do it on the phone. And if you just understand the basics, you don't need much. You just need to hear from an expert. And if you start putting yourself as an expert out there, then people will definitely come to you for the photography as well.
Well, I think that this actually happened through somebody who's seen a lot of the images that Alan's been posting, but he saw some of the stuff before we actually started doing the corporate branding. The godmother like Laura and the godfather like Samir and things like that. The stuff that we did before then, the lighting and that was really intriguing to him, and he wanted to learn, how do you photograph in that kind of lighting? And it was nice because we were able to show him how to do that. Totally different camera to what we have, but we were able to show him the same results. And he was just blown away. He was absolutely thrilled about it. So
very nice.
I think, definitely. I think it's an area for more exploring for you, both you and Alan.
Can I ask a question? I'm going to say to people, obviously, we've talked a lot about business challenges and things that may or may not be in our control business-wise. But what about on a personal challenge? The things, because I've had some people coming to me about, for example, the things I've seen this week, it must be last week now, start of a new week. The things I've seen is loss in self-confidence. And the other one is feeling, although people are, you know, remote teams struggling to kind of stay connected in terms of, you know, sometimes their teams that are, you know, they work in partnership together rather than actually work as one company, and yet, you know, they're feeling that there's that, because people are so used to doing things online, that they're not able to just chat, you know, that kind of water cooler, just want to bounce an idea off you. And I've had quite a few people saying that they're feeling a little isolated and sort of losing out. But, you know, what key things have you found that personally have been challenging for you?
Well, I'm in the UK at the moment, and I think just traveling away from, you know, from family during this pandemic, and traveling away and not knowing if I'm able to come back, that was one of the hardest things. I made that decision to come to the UK because it was unavoidable, but then coming back now, you know, what if we go into another lockdown? What, that uncertainty was really, it was really difficult for me to make that decision. It's never been so hard for me to book a ticket and just come back. You automatically just do it. You come back, you go back, done.
Yeah.
But the worry and the uncertainty was really, really challenging this time. And leaving family behind, because you don't know with this pandemic, especially, you don't know what can happen at any time. So I think that's been one of my challenges over the last couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think for me that the hard part is when we do have a lull. I mean, all three of you may feel the same thing as well. We were just talking earlier that, you know, it just seems to be really quiet this week, or this past week seems to have gone quiet. That's when I start stressing out and thinking to myself, what are we not doing that's bringing in the work? What's wrong? What are we not doing that's right? You know, what else can we do to keep it going, keep the flow going? And that's I'm finding is really hard for me.
And it's like a roller coaster of emotions. You're like, oh,
yeah.
But I think that comes as part of being business owners. I think that will always be there. What do you think, Islan?
You know, I think then business owner and mother, it's
not a good combination.
So to go back to the question, Laura's question, it's really one of the points also that you mentioned to overcome challenge is the self-talk, the inner talk. You know, sometimes, you know, you put the kids to sleep and then you think, and then you start talking to yourself. And this is very, very important to somehow to put the right tone and not to put too much stress on ourselves, because we have to also be reasonable about the expectation. You know, there is nothing called superwoman. I mean, it's only in the movie, I believe. But to somehow to be, you know,
I disagree with that. We're all superwomen.
Okay, superwoman, yes, but I mean, not in the perfection that we all want to be. You know, things have to be perfect. And what is perfection? Here, it's another, you know, point. And just we have to be a little bit
we have to put
understanding. Yes, exactly.
I think, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, I think on that, one of the things that you find is that women, you know, because of the way we think and we nurture, whether we want to or not, it's in, you know, the way we're built to think, we have a tendency to beat ourselves up much more and expect so much more of ourselves. And so I think sometimes our negative self-talk can probably be much worse. You know, this is where the men have an advantage. Some of it just washes over. And I think we try to want to be, as we were saying before in an earlier workshop, we want to be the best of all things, and to be, you know, we put so much pressure on ourselves, you know, so I think that always makes it harder. Definitely.
Yeah. And even the tone that you use to speak to yourself, you know, you need to, even though you're speaking to yourself and you're putting yourself in that mindset, you need to use the right tone with yourself. Yes. You know, when you are telling yourself, look, you need to stop, take a step back. This is the goal. This is what you're working towards. For me, you know, a few months ago, probably a month or so ago, I had a realization that the whole purpose of me working and having my own business was to have the flexibility to have time off with my family, to have time off, you know, and I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, I know.
12-hour days. Sometimes I would start at 8 and I would finish at 2 in the morning, and just constantly work. Where was the flexibility? So I had to say, stop. Okay, stop everything. Take a step back. and that's the only way you can go forward. And sometimes we have to have those talks with ourselves, and we have to stop to look at, going back to the why and why we do this. If our businesses or our work is not giving us the flexibility or the happiness or the satisfaction that we wanted, when we went into this, then what is the purpose of actually doing it?
Yes, really. The want or the will for perfectionism, it's killing.
Yeah.
Now I see my daughter, she's 4, and really she cannot, like, if she would walk and see the drawer that is slightly open, she will go back to close the drawer.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and I was like, no, please, don't be like this, don't be like me. So, but it seems that it's in the genes somehow.
It is. I think this is the thing, as I say, when I train people on strengths, I actually, encourage people to recognize strengths in their kids, because it's your genetic fingerprint. So you see instinctively in your children, things that they do, and you think, oh, you can influence it a little bit, but if they're going to be that way, they're going to be that way. It's maybe to use that as to how do you make that into an advantage in the way she does things moving forwards. She could be someone that's great at decision making because she's really thorough and closes everything, makes sure everything's just right before she makes a decision. So it's probably learning how to use it in its best form as soon as possible.
Right. So I think, ladies, it's been a great session. What Laura wanted to know was, what topics would you like for the future? So what topics would you like support with? How can we help? This networking group is all about the community, and about the women that are part of it. So what would, your specific ask be in terms of how we can support you?
Wow, that's a good question. I just find that every week with the online meetings that we have, whether it be the morning or the afternoon, I don't know, I'm finding this is helping me a lot. Just on the different subjects that we actually cover. You'll come up with a subject and I'm thinking, now that's actually going to be a good one. I hadn't thought of that. So then I'm really keen to get online and just to listen to everybody's feedback and everybody's input. And I don't know, I think every session for me is really insightful.
Well, thank you. It's great for us to hear that, because for me and Laura, when we're planning these sessions, it's often a challenge to really think about what is it that people want, what do our community want from us, what's going to get them involved and really help and make a difference. So it's great for us to hear that. Laura, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I think it's lovely to hear that. But if things strike you as things that you think, oh, that could be really useful, or, even if you feel that there's something that you would love to share, an experience or something that we can all learn from, we're always really open to doing that too.
And I think the WhatsApp group as well really helps the community as well, where we can share different tips and ideas. We try not to bombard everybody with too many messages, but it's still nice to have that network and that community there as well. Gislan, are there any topics that you want, support with or guidance?
For me, really, it's the way how to the focus or the meditation about really focusing on one. Like Laura, you mentioned about the book of about the goal, the one sentence.
Oh, Gary Keller. Yeah, I quote him. I quote him all the time. I know, he's somebody whose books are, I have a few favorite go-to authors that I really respect and what have you. And he's one of them in terms of his book is called The One Thing. It is an particular book. I've used it when I've trained leaders for years and years and years, and it is a brilliant book on setting priorities. I talk about it. I'm even, in the book I'm writing, I'm mentioning him again because he is really, I found him to be very, very beneficial.
I'm going to check it out.
Gary Keller.
Gary Keller, The One Thing. I should go on commission for this. Actually, I'm quoting. He's somebody that I use. I do give a lot of time for because it's very good.
Well, I mean, so anybody wants one picking up, I'll pop into WH Smith at the airport. Not that much. and pick you all a copy up on my way back.
The other one that's good is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor
Yeah,
Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, yes.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoy that. We are using that quite a bit in our working lives, trying to, and we think, wow, if only I'd known this 30 years ago.
Yes, exactly, you're right.
Doing an MBA, and she had all her books out, and she had the book How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
They'll kind of get on the side, and I was like, oh, I'm reading that book, and she's like, you've not read it yet. I'll read a section, and then I'll go back to it and I'll read it again, to internalize it. And she's like, yeah, you need to get on with reading that book. You've been reading it for a while now. So I've kind of, what I'm trying to do is put into my daily routine at least 10 minutes of reading. So I'm actually, finishing a book, or I'm actually learning all the time. And that really helps me as well. But I'm going to pick these up from the airport.
I have to say, because I'm an early riser. Years before I had my accident, I used to get up 4:30 in the morning to run, because that was my time to do it. But I still may not get up at 4:30, but I'm usually up around 5, and I make sure that I use that time first thing to be putting it down for some learning time. So particularly if something's worried me during the night, or I've woken up, as some of us do, thinking, oh my God, where should I focus? I sometimes Google things. There's some great stuff online as well. And I have to say, I'm very, very, because of, I work with so many people. My job is training, as Zen, feels the same, and well-being and resilience and so on. So I'm constantly reading, and there's some great articles, even just from people like Forbes and Harvard Business and things that come up with some really astute stuff. Gallup, obviously, I'm going to say Gallup, they are brilliant for analytics. They come up with very interesting stuff. So sometimes it's not necessarily a whole book that you need, but just some really poignant articles. And the wonderful thing now with our smartphones is, you can start looking something up, and then, it will send me more that come up with regard to X, Y, and Z. So, I do use that. And that's another way, if I haven't got time to read a whole book, just some short stuff as I go along.
Okay, so just to wrap up the session, both Laura and I offer, support to our community. So do reach out to us if you need a free personal training and development plan with myself. And oops, the daisies, where's Laura's gone? It's not there. Apologies, Laura. I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, just to say that obviously always there for some coaching advice. And I was just saying to Zen earlier that, recognizing, this whole thing on well-being and people trying to buy into how they can, manage themselves moving forwards. I'm actually devising a load of short online courses as well, just, to pick a mix: productivity, stress-based, strengths-based, different things, only 90 minutes. Which might help people as well, but always available for discussion if anyone's feeling particularly stuck in an area.
Thank you. So here are some of the courses that we offer at Zen Professional Development. Do have a look on our website for all our online learning and our qualifications. And here are our contact details. Do reach out. For anyone who's watching, we're available via email, via telephone. Just give us a call, and we're happy to support you.
Yeah, and I will actually just mention that I have just changed my email today, my prime email. So I will be, just very quickly, laura@lauraeverestconsulting.com, but we'll change it on here in due course. And then if people want to reach out, that's where I'm at. So if you get any emails, that's me. I've just changed it into a more formal business account.
Wonderful, thank you, Laura. And do follow us on social media. We're always posting advice, tips, and guidance to help the community. So please do reach out to us on social media and connect with us. And we look forward to having you join us at the next session, which will be.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank
Good
you,
to
Laura.
see you all
soon,
again.
ladies.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you.
Happy birthday for Wednesday. No, when is it? Tuesday, Laura?
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh.
Yes, I'm going to admit to being 25 this year. In fact, my son is 20, is by the by.
Have a fantastic day and a good
Thank
week,
you.
everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks, girls.
Yeah,
See you
ladies.
soon.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.